Welcome to the special edition WTR Small-Cap Spotlight podcast. I'm your host, Shawn Severson, CEO and founding partner of Water Tower Research. In today's episode, I'm being joined by Richard MacPherson, President and CEO of Birchtech Corporation, Canada and TSX, and US OTC ticker BCHT. Birchtech is a specialty activated carbon technology company that aims for sustainable and affordable approaches for mercury emissions control and potable water treatment. Also joining us is my colleague, Peter Gastreich, Senior Energy and Sustainability Analyst at Water Tower Research. Good morning, gentlemen, and thank you for joining today's podcast.
Good morning, Shawn.
Morning, Shawn.
Thanks. Richard, since this is your first time joining us on the WTR Small Cap Spotlight, could you please provide us and our listeners with some details of your background, as well as a high-level overview of Birchtech's history and business model?
Yeah, sure. Shawn, I started the company back in 2008 in conjunction with the Energy Environment Research Center, which is a branch of the University of North Dakota. They're one of the oldest and largest coal research facilities in the country. And I acquired the exclusive rights to some patented technologies that we were then able to take over the next few years to market in order to be able to establish a commercial market for that. So we did a great deal of testing in the field from 2008 to 2011 when we landed our first commercial contract for Birchtech, which was previously known as Midwest Energy Emissions. And from that point forward, it's been a great 10, 12 years of growth in the mercury emissions control business across the U.S. And of late, in the last couple of years, we've done a lot of research and work and development for entering the potable water purification business across the country as well.
Great. Thanks for that introduction and overview, Richard. That was very helpful. I know Peter has a bunch of questions, so I'm going to pass it over to him and he can run through those.
Sure thing.
Yes, thanks, Richard, for the introduction. Could we dig a bit deeper into your operational business model, including how Birchtech generates revenue? It'd be great if you could clarify here for our listeners. Are you producing and selling activated carbon products? Are you licensing technologies or processes to other companies? What are the key drivers there? And also in terms of your inputs, what do you use for raw materials? Do you outsource your raw materials or do you have some degree of upstream integration?
Well, Peter, we actually do both. We both license our technologies, which are patented technologies, to power plants across the country so they can use our process, as well as supply customized carbonaceous materials to our clients across the country. Again, dozens of boilers across the country have used our supply side for many years, and many more actually have been licensed to use that process. And also, I should say, we're underway with a very strong licensing campaign now, which is showing great results and promises a great deal of growth for us in the coming years. With regards to the materials that we use, typically we use base materials similar to other providers of activated carbons in the country. However, we are, as a technology company, much more highly designed in our approach to those and customized in terms of the actual end products that we use.
Okay, thank you. Understood. So I would like to learn a bit more about your strategy for growth. For example, for your technology, are you purely focused on PFAS and public drinking water for growth or other types of customers? Also, in terms of your target markets, how would you characterize the size of opportunity there? And furthermore, the ability for the industry overall in terms of supply to kind of keep up with that demand?
So, Peter, we've got a very unique, well-rounded approach to business. Our legacy business, our air purification business in removing mercury from coal-fired plants, is very well established. We've given guidance this year of $23 million on our supply side only, but we have a very strong licensing revenue base as well. So that basic business that we started in 2008 is a growing business. We have, at this point, a good line on the potential for about $40 million a year on the supply side, and that would be developed over the next 18 months from our licensing program. But also as we enter into water, which we started working on several years ago, we have secured several different feedstock contracts and are in the midst right now of acquiring additional assets that would generate somewhere in the area of 8 to 20 million a year in waterside revenue, starting in the latter half of 2025. And we see the water revenue opportunity to be tenfold that of our air side, which will really start to develop going into 26. And so we see a really well-rounded expansion over the next 18 to 24 months in particular, which would generate some great returns on the investments that we've already made.
Okay, thank you. Could we talk about Birchtech's competitive advantages? Also, presuming your technology is the key here, it'd be great if you could help us understand the landscape and what are the competing technologies that are out there or alternative solutions that are being pursued in the market?
So, Peter, there are a number of different alternative approaches, but everything really comes back to carbonaceous materials and activated carbons. Activated carbons have long since looked after about 80 to 90% of the water purification in the country, and they'll continue to do so. So our entrance into the water market in particular is to take advantage of that basic approach to purification, but enhance the performance with customized activated carbons, which are that's our skill, that's our strength, that's how we built our company over these past dozen years or more. And so what we're attempting to do, which we have had great success so far, is to do for water what we did for air, which was reduce the amount of carbonaceous materials necessary to purify water compared to what's used today. We've made great strides. We have two world-class development facilities that we've built out in these past 2 years, one in North Dakota and another in Pennsylvania. And from those sites, we are generating new technologies that we'll be introducing to the market the latter half of 2025 with a great deal of promise given what we've seen so far in the lab. We'll start comparative testing with dozens of different utilities that we've been working with and bringing those results to market and establishing a base of clientele in the water business that we can add to as we build out our production facilities.
And it sounds like a very large demand growth opportunity here. And, with that large growth in demand and potential that we have supply running short, do we have, a large enough and growing pie here to bring on multiple solutions, for PFAS? I mean, will the customers, have the luxury of kind of waiting for the right solution, or will they have to go with what's available?
So presently, Peter, there's an undersupply in the country and expected to be an undersupply for many years to come due to the projected needs to meet PFAS regulations. Now, we're approaching it from a different angle. We have developed technologies or carbonaceous materials that are highly effective to remove these forever chemicals, but we're not banking on that alone. We've created technologies and we'll be introducing them to market that have higher efficacy than the best of what's available today. And so we're going to carve a share of market from the day-to-day water purification business that exists today, but also be extremely well positioned to meet any regulations on PFAS, whether they be state or federal. So as we enter into the market in the latter half of 2025, we will be dealing with both wastewater remediation, general water purification, and the removal of PFAS or forever chemicals.
And, going back to the licensing of your technology, does this mean that in some senses, like, for example, if we think about companies which could be your competitors, for example, listing your annual report and otherwise, does this mean that some of your competitors can also be collaborators from that perspective?
Yes, indeed. Actually, we've long done business with Norit, one of our main competitors, and they continue to be one of our base material suppliers. So it's a symbiotic relationship that works for both of us and allows us to compete by minimize our CapEx requirements in order to do so. So that's been a winning formula for us. Going forward, excuse me, we have also obtained a feedstock agreement, which I announced about a year ago, that provides us with base materials that we can use our know-how and technologies to enhance and then provide end products to the market. So in a couple of different cases, yes, a very significant and rather unique way for us to get to market without having to wait years and spend tens of millions of dollars on plants to do so.
Okay, that's great. So how about if we turn to Birchtech's balance sheet? Could you share the company's financing and capital strategy, please?
Sure. So as we go forward, as we continue to operate, we've projected a 23 million just base supply side business for 2025. That will drop several million dollars to the bottom line. We maintain $3 or $4 million of cash on our balance sheet quarterly as we have gone through the past. There's been some big chunks come in through our IP litigation, which has been 100% successful today. But overall, our efforts going forward are to be able to maintain a constant cash flow through the profits of the core business and enter the water business without absorbing too much debt. We are looking at some acquisitions, which would be debt financed only. And those acquisitions that we are looking at are profitable ongoing operations as they are. We would seek to enhance them considerably, use our skill set, our patents, and our know-how to be able to provide higher grade products post-acquisition and build those plants and those supply chains in order to increase our overall revenues. We've yet to give guidance on those activities, but I expect to be able to do so in the coming months. And they promise to be very positive and very successful for the company in the long term.
Okay, of course, the question that we've been asking every company on our podcast over the last few months is we need to do a regulatory health check here. So, with the evolving regulatory environment in Washington, D.C., including tariffs and deregulation, what are the considerations here for your business?
Well, it's interesting you should ask, Peter. Actually, the tariffs, as they stand, as we know, could change any minute. They stand to benefit our company in that we are 100% USA based, and our materials that we use come from the USA. And some of our competitors import materials from other countries. So we would be in a position, of course, to improve our comparative stance against those companies. We don't see any change in regulation coming down the pipe that would affect either our air or water business. We're not basing our growth or entrance into the water business on the forever chemical regulations, even though the director of EPA has always been a proponent of clean water and the removal of forever chemicals. And we see that as being a very big upside opportunity in the water market. We are basing our entrance into that market on standard regulations that have been in place for many years in order to be able to gain a foothold. Should the PFOS regulations come into existence, either at a state or federal level, then we'll be ready for them and offer technologies that have much higher efficacy than what's available today.
Okay, so now taking all this in mind into account, and what would you suggest that investors listening should be focused on most with Birchtech in 2025? What are some of the key signposts you would recommend that we kind of keep an eye out for, and things we should look out for in terms of measuring the successful execution of your strategy this year?
Well, some of the key goals that we have in 2025 are several acquisitions, the commercialization and rollout of our laboratories, both in North Dakota and Pennsylvania, beyond the development and design side. We see them as real profit centers. we will be announcing entrance into the water market in a very practical way through the announcement of contracts, supply contracts. So as investors start to see us post wins as we enter the water business, they'll get a real true sense of value and potential. And I'll be bringing more details in earnings calls and quarterly reports as we go on. So the best thing I can say at this point, Peter, would be for people to follow the story. I think at this point, the enterprise value should show significant response to the wins that we expect throughout the rest of the year. And we are looking to make a significant step onto the New York Stock Exchange this fall. So I think all told, it'll be an interesting story for people to follow.
Okay, fantastic. So before I pass over to Shawn, I'll just give you a chance to provide any concluding remarks for investors or address anything important that we might have missed.
Peter, the only thing we haven't touched on is, of course, we have very significant, outstanding financial awards that we're waiting on from our federal court case that we won in Delaware. Our attorneys have asked for $160 million in damages, and we have, at this point, 12 different defendants also under litigation for infringement on our patents, which have tremendous opportunity to provide additional value to the company and its shareholders. So there are some very significant things going on in the background, along with all of the things that we work on day to day to both build our air and enter the water market. So all in all, a very exciting year for us. I think the company will be in much different position ending the year than when we started 2025. And I think that will bode well for the investors.
Okay, Richard, thank you. With that, I will pass the call back over to Shawn.
Thanks again to Richard MacPherson, President and CEO of Birchtech Corporation, ticker BCHT, for joining us today. A very exciting story, lots going on. And again, thank you for joining us.
My pleasure. Thank you, guys.
And also like to thank my equity research colleague, Peter Gastreich, for joining us today.
Thanks, Shawn.
And last but certainly not least, a special thanks to the producer and editor of the podcast, my WTR colleague, Joe Brunetto. Thank you for listening today, and don't forget to subscribe, as well as visiting our website at www.watertowerresearch to stay up to speed on the company's small cap written research reports, podcasts, fireside chats, and conference schedules. We'll see you next time for another edition of the WTR Small Cap Spotlight podcast. And thanks again. Thanks to all our investors for listening and to our guests today.